Yeah. Wake up with coffee and sports. Sunrise glow, listen coast to coast. A flow like you know.
Offensively, who made them? Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Sideline to sideline with plays to show. This network's got the spark.
When you put up 300 yards rushing against someone, that you got your butt whooped.
I feel like I would have liked to see Oregon Ohio State in the semis, not the quarters. So I think some reseeding is probably where I would change. But
they're out of their mind. They're going to do this 3 quarterbacks in a row.
Here's the crazy.
I just can't take it.
First keep flying high, fast cheering loud, and one podcast moving through the crowd. Needy boys brawling, no holds barred out. This wire life never in doubt. Tune into the vibe.
That's my bold prediction for the show. Devin Booker, in the next 3 years, he will be a Houston Rocket.
Because I still think Seth is still at the top of his game. I do. I think he's right there. Who knows? Maybe. Not this year, but one time soon. Why wouldn't we potentially see Seth and Roman? You know what I mean?
Tune in the vibe. Morning Reds, court centers. Got me on the mic, now let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Wilt to Steph, we hit it again. Open it chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Rubbly prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream highs. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Podcast magic can't be beat. Do better, we're more better. We're hoop heads, trendsetters.
What's poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Guardy3, and we are hyped today. It is a great month. It is March. You know what that means. It's March Madness. It's going to get a little wild this month in the world of basketball. Looking forward to it. So, got a lot to get into. But, of course, the greatest co-host of all time, he is Mo Betta. How you doing, Mo?
It's Thursday night. We're talking hoops. I'm doing great. What's good, chat?
Say, hey, what's going on? Yeah, we got a lot to get into, and of course, you know how we start, though. If this is your first time tuning in. The way we start every episode is we give an underrated player of the week. It could be a team, player, executive. We just think there are too many players around the league now and in the history of the game that don't get their flowers. So, Mo, underrated player of the week. Who do you got?
My underrated player of the week is he's kind of an unsung player, but I think he's valuable in terms of what he does for his team. My underrated player is Tari Eason of the Houston Rockets. I think when you combine Tari Eason's athleticism and physicality with Amen Thompson, it gives Houston 2 elite wing defenders. Eason's a great defender, great slasher, finisher in the open court, high-level rebounder, and obviously can be an elite defender. So I think Tari Eason is an underrated player, and I want to give him his flowers.
And I think that's a great one. I love it. I'd say absolutely. Tari Eason's been terrific, and the strides that he's taken from 3 really helped unlock that offense. Like, you could tell there was a noticeable difference. Like, all of a sudden he's hitting, like, last time I looked, it was close to like 45, 46% of its threes. And that just makes all the world of difference, especially in an offense like the Rockets that is, quite frankly, even though you have Kevin Durant and Tari Eason shooting hot, it still lacks spacing. So they need Tari to keep letting it rip. He's been terrific for them this year.
Yeah, he's made a huge leap with his efficiency for behind the three-point line this season. As a fan of his, I hope it's sustainable and he can take that into the playoffs.
Say absolutely. You know what, Mo? I'm gonna mix it up a little bit in honor of March Madness. I'm gonna do a college team that's near and dear to my heart that didn't win the tournament, but they were a runner-up. Of course, Mo, I'm talking about that 14-15 Wisconsin Badgers team.
Oh,
that most notably knocked off undefeated Kentucky. They're 38-0 coming into that game. Everybody picked Kentucky to knock off Wisconsin, but Wisconsin pulled off the upset. They made it to the the finals, and they couldn't beat Duke. But the fact that team, made it as far as they did, shout out to Nigel Hayes, Sam Decker, Frank Kaminsky and company. Like, just what a terrific run by those guys. So I just wanted to shout out the 14-15 Wisconsin Badgers in honor of March Madness.
fun team. Frank the Tank was in his bag back then. What I remember about Sam Decker could shoot the three, but was sneaky athletic. I'm a little disappointed because I thought Sam Decker would be a better pro, but that's how it goes sometimes.
I even remember where I was watching that game. It was funny because I was on my way visit. At the time, I was living in New York, but I was on my way to visit, Milwaukee to see the family. And I remember just being in a hotel room, just watching Sam Decker knocking down big threes. And I think what helped make that team work so well is unsung hero, Nigel Hayes, Sam Decker. That was a nice front court that could kind of switch and help keep Frank Kaminsky off the perimeter, because Frank was a lot of things, but mobile wasn't one of them. So having those two guys being able to just kind of switch and help and being able to recover like they could, it was a fun team to watch. It was a great time.
Look, let's keep it a buck. Sometimes what you do in March Madness most definitely can elevate your draft status. I thought Frank Kaminsky was a good prospect throughout the season, but what he did in March Madness, it certainly elevated him to the status that he was. Now, look, I think Frank was going to be a good pro, but I didn't see him being a franchise player. And obviously, it hasn't really turned out that way since he's been in the NBA.
I actually agree with that. I love Frank the Tank, but when he got picked, I believe it was 10 by the Hornets, I was like, crap. Because the fit just didn't feel like it was there. Frank needed, a team that was really switchable defensively to help keep him off the perimeter, and the offensive system of the Hornets was just a lot of my turn, your turn, because they were kind of playing through Al Jefferson and, Kemba Walker.
I remember.
So, they kind of had Frank just kind of in the corner spacing the floor, and he was the guy that could shoot, but you didn't really want him living in the three-point area. You want to give him some touches around the rim, so it just felt like from the jump, the entire thing was a mess. But you know what? He helped the Phoenix Suns in 2021.
Yes, he did. And look, where you're drafted, the culture that you're drafted into, for some guys, that's everything in terms of how it impacts their careers. For those freak of natures that are just out and out dominant or already one of the top players from the jump, it doesn't matter where they land. Wemby could have landed in any team in the NBA, and he would still be Wemby. And I'm taking nothing away from the Spurs. Sensational franchise, sensational organization. It's almost a perfect fit because of the Spurs culture, but the young guys that they drafted ahead of him. I mean, if you're Wemby, could you have asked to jump into the NBA in your NBA career in a better situation? So I do think culture and situation matters.
Oh, 100%. Say Castle is such a terrific pick for them. And Dylan Harper is shaping up to be a great pick for them too.
He really is. I really think, and I do value De'Aaron Fox, but I think De'Aaron Fox's time with the Spurs literally is contingent on how quickly Harper and Castle develop. Because I think the faster they develop, the quicker it is that he won't be part of the Spurs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just for fun too, Mo, we had some big news today. Jason Tatum, sounds like he's not only playing this year, but they're saying tomorrow. He's back Friday. I'm assuming limited minutes to start. Do you think that Jason Tatum should be coming back this early? Do you think he's rushing it?
Look, I've been consistent on this, and we talked about this in the lead up to, I guess, tomorrow. And I'm gonna keep it 100 how I feel about it. I'm as a fan, mind you, I'm not a Celtics, but I'm a fan of the NBA. I would rather him err on caution and come back next season. I would. I understand the fact that the East is wide open and that they feel that if they get Jason Tatum back, even if we're talking about a Jason Tatum who's more of a support player, maybe averaging 18 a game or 19 a game, in support of what Brown and Pritchard and others are doing, I just think he's coming back too soon. Durant had the same injury. He became a free agent. You remember this, and he went to the Nets and sat out the entire season, right? And didn't come back until early into the next season. And Durant is at the time was probably 4 years older than Tatum is now. I'm just saying, with the history of this injury and how long it takes to recover normally, to me, it's not a race. It's not a sprint. And I think you should go by the formula that it's always been, that you sit out for a year, for the entirety of a year, and you get yourself 120% healthy so that you can help your franchise down the line. Like, to me, Jason Tatum is more about the Celtics' future. I know they've overachieved, and I knew they would. I said they would. But just because the East is wide open, I don't think it's a good idea to risk your franchise player's health. And I know he wants to do it, but you know the old saying, sometimes you got to save the player for himself. I hope I'm proven wrong. If he actually comes back and plays well and can stay healthy, then we'll let the chips fall where they may. But I'm still the guy that's like, wait till next season.
It's so interesting because you look back at like the numbers of guys that have, come back from Achilles and were the same player before. And that list is just like Kevin Durant, the end. But Tatum's an interesting case, and Halliburton will be an interesting case too, because a lot of these guys, when they're popping their Achilles, they were like already out of their prime. Like Kobe in 2013, he popped it, but he was obviously closer to being out of his prime than the beginning. Chauncey Billups was out of his prime, Wes Matthews, guys like that. Tatum trying to do this recovery, which his time frame is about the same as when guys like Chauncey and Kobe came back, which turned out to be too soon. But like I said, they're at the tail end of their prime. Tatum is starting to smack dab. He's either in his or just entering his. So I think Tatum will almost be either a, hey, look at this, you can do it, or B, just a warning to future players if it goes horribly wrong. And I'm praying that it's a good thing. I'm hoping we get a healthy Tatum.
I do as well. And look, he is younger. People forget that I think Jason Tatum he's either 27 or 28, but he's younger than Jaylen Brown. So I get it. And he's younger than the other guys that you mentioned. So I understand that point of view. But how can you not be concerned? I hope they obviously bring him back. I'm sure he'll be in a minutes restriction initially. My concern was always about his health. I was never concerned about, because you hear so many people like, well, he'll come back and he'll ruin the chemistry in the system. Like, they've played the same system since Joe Mazzulla's been their head coach. He's not going to mess up the system. And you could argue that even though they're a good team, too much of the offensive load has been put on Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard. I think he alleviates that. He's not going to hurt. If he's healthy, he's not going to hurt anything. Now, he will have to get back into game shape, and I'm sure his shot and things might be rusty. Best case scenario to me, like I said, this current version that we get for the rest of it, if he averages 18, 19 a game, and does the things that he did on both ends of the floor prior to the injury, he will be a huge boost to the Boston Celtics, and they would be legitimate title contenders. But how can you not have concern? Because if it goes wrong, never mind that you're not going to win anything this year, you're not going to win anything next year either. You're not even going to be in contention next year either.
Yeah, it's funny with the whole idea that he's going to disrupt the chemistry in the system. Like, yeah, he's going to take more shots and all that, but it's one of those things that I've seen Tatum just kind of, be a playmaker and a distributor. I watched him do it in the NBA Finals when the Mavericks loaded up their defense to stop Tatum. He's like, yeah, cool. I'll be more of a playmaker than, a shooter. So I think he's one of those guys that he's more versatile than everybody gives him credit for. Like they think he just wants to come in and start chucking, and I'm sure he'll come in initially and to shoot a lot just to try to get into a rhythm before the playoffs. But like the idea that he just needs to shoot for value or whatever the concern is, I think people just don't understand fully at times how well-rounded he is.
I agree. I think what gets lost is in this league where shooting is a premium, the only thing that trumps shooting is shot creation. A healthy Jason Tatum gives the Celtics another shot creator who can not only get his, but set other people up for easier opportunities. So how does he not make you? Of course he makes you better. There will be some rust issues, but if they play, and again, I think he's going to play maybe 20, 25 minutes a game for maybe the first month, and maybe they'll ramp him up to 30 before the playoffs. But I think you have to approach this cautiously. If you're going to play him, then you have to approach this as cautiously as possible, just to err on safety.
Oh, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The other great news that I've heard today, and it's a rumor that was thrown out there by Stephen A. Smith, and this is one of those times where I'm praying that this man is right. The Bucks head coach, Glenn, might be retiring at the end of the year. And if he does, I will be the happiest man alive. Like, I might be popping champagne on stream if that happens.
Yeah, I know I'm not a big fan of Glenn. And look, maybe Glenn is seeing the forest through the trees and realize that this team is probably like closer to a rebuild than it is being a championship contender. Maybe Glenn's saying he don't want to sign up to rebuild, which if you're a Bucks fan, good for you.
No, like, honestly, like, Mo, we had the stupidest backcourt of all time yesterday, and it was 2 days ago. We played the Hawks. If you were a Bucks fan, Mo, and you turn on your TV and your point guard and shooting guard is Cam Thomas and Kyle Kuzma, you're just turning off your TV, right? Because that's exactly what I did. I was like, I know how this goes. Nope.
Look, you and I both know the two guys you name, the one thing they're going to do consistently, they're going to shoot the ball. That's what Cam Thomas does. Cam Thomas is a scorer, but he's also a volume scorer, which means that even if he's not shooting well, he's going to continue to shoot. It's who he is. As far as Kyle Kuzma goes, I don't know. Kuzma hasn't really shot consistently well in years. He's kind of become like he's the opposite of the Kyle Kuzma who first came into the league, who was an overachiever. He was actually a playoff raiser, and now he's kind of more like I would call him an underachiever. Everybody keeps thinking he can impact the franchise in a positive way. Not really. He's just a guy. As Max Kellerman would say, he's just a jag.
And just for fun, by the way, our small forward in that lineup was Pete Nance. So it almost felt like he pulled out his phone, did like a random name generator, and it popped up those 5 names because the other two were like Bobby and Miles Turner. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? You guys get out there. No, sorry, Jericho Sims was out there too.
Wow.
But it was just the most odd names. And the worst part is, and this is what made me stop watching, it gives up a 9-0 scoring run, Mo. Timeout. I'm like, yeah, cool. We're making adjustments, right? That same lineup gets trotted back out there. I'm like, yeah, we're wrapping this one up, boys. Yeah, call it. This is, I know it's not technically waving the white flag until we get guys like Thanasis and stuff in there, but to me, I'm like, yeah, we waving the white flag in the middle of the second quarter with this lineup.
I saw the frustration. What they showed the frustration the other night? Was it last night when Giannis threw the ball at the stanchion?
Yeah, that against the Hawks.
I mean, look, you reach a point where the frustration can boil over a little bit, and Giannis is a realist. He knows they're not going to win anything this year, but that doesn't mean that he still likes the idea of losing.
No, absolutely. And and that's kind of, and that's the frustrating part. It's one of those things where I'm at a point though. It's like if he wants to retire at the end of the year, like, dog, just do it now. Why are we wasting our time? Like, I just don't get it. Hey, what's going on, Reed? I'm trying to keep up with him. Don't you worry about it. Yeah, it's just frustrating because I'm just like, dude, just retire now. Like, the offense looks horrible. The defense looks even worse. We've given up 79 threes in the last 4 games. And when asked how to fix the defense, his response was, well, maybe we got to get bigger. Like, it doesn't help us at the 3-point line, Glenn. So now I'm just kind of like, all right, well, we're just cooked at this point. So, like, I'm at a point where I'm just tired of him. Like, if you're going to retire, don't play this whole, I'm going to wait till the end of the year. Nah, just do it now. Like, I'll take 20 games of Darvin Ham at this point.
I feel like Doc has become like, that employee you work with that just rides the clock. You know what I mean? They're not actually working or anything, but they're just riding the clock to build up their paycheck. I feel like Glenn is in that mode. He's not inspiring. The players don't really listen to him, but he's still there, clocking in and night out, riding that clock. Look, I think the best thing for the Bucks is at the end of the season, sure, they have a lot of roster construction concerns, but if Doc Rivers retires or walks away, they need a fresh voice. They need a new person at the helm. So him leaving is a win for the Bucks. That, like, you want to say starting the offseason off in a good way? In a good way, you're going to get a fresh voice, a fresh mind, a fresh leader on your bench.
I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen when he retires. There is a meme I'll probably recreate where this dude's all dressed up and the caption is showing up to my hater's funeral just to make sure he's dead. I'll probably recreate that. I'll stand outside of Pfizer Forum all dressed up with the same pose and everything. Like, I just need him out. Like, I'm tired of it. Like my franchise GOAT is probably gone because this dude is just completely incompetent at fixing anything. Like, okay, if the offense or defense, if one side of the ball is bad, it's one thing. But, like, when both sides of the ball are just beyond repair for, like, a year and a half now, and you have Giannis who's a walking, like, 25, 30 points a night, like, yeah, just wrap it up, dog. Just ride off into the sunset, go back to TNT, go start a podcast with Austin Rivers, and do whatever you want. Just get out of Milwaukee, like, tomorrow.
And you know what? To be fair, Doc's actually really good as a studio host, as an in-studio analyst. He's actually really good. He's better as an analyst than he is as a head coach.
I agree. Like, I will, like, let me put it this way. Will I now at this point always be, like, kind of salty towards him? Yeah. But I'm not going to sit here and say he isn't good at anything. He was a great analyst. Like, honestly, I wouldn't mind having him join the crew at, like, Amazon because he genuinely seems to care about the game. He's just not a good coach, and that's okay. Like, just go be an analyst, dude. His whole career's tied to that OA championship.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah, bro's coach like half the top 75. I would take Sam Cassell as a coach. That would be great. Why not? At this point, why not?
Is Sam Cassell? Let me ask you this, Brett, because we obviously we both follow football too. But is Sam Cassell, is he become like, in terms of assistant coaches, is he like the Eric Bieniemy of NBA assistant coaches? Because Sam's been around for a minute, knows basketball inside and out, has great relationships throughout the organizations, and yet has never been tapped to be a head coach.
It feels like it. It really does. Because that's the weird part about Sam Cassell. Like, he seems like he'd be a great head coach, but every cycle he just gets passed over. I don't know if people just think he's not ready yet or he's bombing interviews, but honestly, at this point, especially if, like, for example, if Giannis is leaving at the end of the year, or even if he stays, like, I'm down for to try a first-time head coach at that point. Like, let's start fresh. Let's get a new voice, especially if Giannis leaves, because at this point, I just need a new voice in the locker room, and I'm willing to try just about anybody. Like, Mo, if you walked in and said, I'm the new head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks next year, I'd probably do backflips at that point.
We're back in the playoffs.
Yes, sir. Missoula got Charles Lee a job. He'll get Cassell. Cassell one too. I believe Vin Baker is on the Bucs staff. Hey, shout out to Vin Baker.
Vin Baker used to be one of my favorite players. So, yeah, I'm cool with that.
So I've decided that, gonna have a quick little fun segment. If anybody doesn't know, I do have a segment when we talk about some NBA draft prospects. We're in March Madness. So I figure let's bring it back this week. It's called Puppy Prospects. And our draft prospect for this week is Cam Boozer. And now, Mo, I really like Cam Boozer as a prospect. I think he's fantastic. I think he's got a great playmaker for his position. Great face-up game. Kind of just what I wrote here. 40% from three, which I think helps a ton with his face-up game because you have to come out to guard him on the perimeter. And at the collegiate level, he's been great at, getting good post position and finishing down there. He's got a little post game. But his biggest flaws are going to come on the defensive end. Shot blocker, he is not. He's a good athlete, but not an elite athlete. Like, is he athletic? Sure. Is he athletic compared to some of these other, to a lot of the guys in the league? Not really. So I'm slightly concerned if he's able to keep up with some of the quicker forwards at the next level. And I think you have to construct your roster to make sure there's a shot blocker behind him. So, which is why, for example, some of these teams I put for good fits. Brooklyn, you can put Nick Claxton behind him. If the Blazers get lucky, you can put Donovan Clingan behind him. The Hawks got Okonwu that you can, help, have him help out with. So I'm looking at Cam Boozer as a prospect. I like him. I think he's going to be a great pick. I think he's a multi-time All-Star. And my player comp for him is, I think his high-end player comp is, imagine a wing version of Al Horford. Multi-time All-Star.
That's not a bad comparison. I think he has elements of his father's game in his game, with his ability to shoot in the paint with either hand, finish with either hand. He does have a nice post game, good footwork. The fact that he can extend your defense by shooting where he can from behind the arc, that's going to add so much to any team that drafts him. And you're right. My concern with him isn't what he's going to do offensively. I think he's going to be fine. The challenge will be, can he don't have to be an all NBA defender, but a competitive defender to where he can't get targeted. But it will be important in that front court, who's your 5 and who's your 3. Because somebody needs to be that weak side guy that's got his back.
Say smaller version of Vin Baker with post moves. Oh, that's fair too. Yeah, it's one of those things. He's going to be terrific on the offensive end. I'm looking forward to that. Like defensively, he's a willing defender. He'll make all the right rotations. He's just not going to block shots. And there are times where his effort on some closeouts is, lacking. But overall, like, he's been shown to buy into the team system, especially at Duke. So I think he's coachable, and I think his offensive game is going to translate really well to the next level.
Agreed. And I think that he's the kind of guy that rookie year you're going to see how he's acclimated to the NBA. Like, I think in his rookie year, I could see him averaging a double-double in his rookie year. And I think that he'll continue to develop. Again, depending on where he's drafted, it'll impact his development. But the kid is so well coached. He's clearly a gym rat. Like, I don't know if he's going to be a superstar, but I think if he's not a superstar, he's at least going to be a perennial all-star.
Yeah, I don't think he's Elton Brand per se, but I think he's closer to kind of like a Horford kind of player.
Yeah. I'll go with that. Brand was more of a shot blocker too.
Yeah, I'll say if you want a more modern comp for him, I think he could also end up being kind of in the Julius Randle category of things. Like if I told you his median like is Julius Randle, and I think his ceiling is closer to Horford. I think he's going to be very good I think he's still going to be good at worst. I think he's going to at least be very good, but I think he can be just a consistent fringe All NBA player at his peak. Maybe
No, but
even just All NBA third teamer.
But that's why the Horford comp is a good comp. People forget because they're seeing Al Horford the last few years and obviously this year with the Warriors, but Al Horford's like a 5 or 6 time All-Star. Like, and I love the set what you just said. He's going to be very, very good. Like Al Horford was. Is he going to be your team's best player? Not if you're trying to win titles, but he will be. I think he can absolutely be a very important piece to your team becoming a title contender and winning titles. He can be that second or third guy. I think he is a building block towards your team winning a title. So I think he's going to acclimate to the NBA game very well.
Oh, absolutely. And even if he ends up, like I said, for example, even if he doesn't hit like Horford levels of good, let's say he falls to his median, which I think even then he's still like could come into the league and just be around Julius Randle levels of good. That's still a good player. Like I think I don't think he'll be the best guy in this draft, but I think he'll be one of the more consistent and safer prospects in this draft.
Agree. I think there are guys that have higher ceilings, but the thing about higher ceilings is a lot of guys don't ever reach their ceiling. I think Boozer, being as polished as he is already, I think he's going to step into the NBA and already be a good player from the jump.
Mo, how about, no, absolutely. And Mo, I just got an idea. You down for a little bit of a fun game with one of the hottest teams in the league right now?
It's got to be the Hornets, right?
It absolutely is. So, we're going to play a game. We're going to try to predict where the Hornets end up at the end of the year. So, this is going to be really simple. I'm going to name a team, and it's going to be the team in front of them, and we're going to try to figure out where they are. So, Mo, the team directly in front of the Hornets is the Heat. Do they jump the Heat, do you think?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
All right. The team in front of them for the 7th seed is the Orlando Magic. Do they jump the Magic?
That is a tougher challenge, but it's weird because normally I watch bits and pieces of Hornets games, but probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've watched a lot of Hornets games. And it's not just their offense. They're a lot more competitive on the defensive end. If I'm going off of chemistry, because chemistry does matter and how they're playing, I would actually take the Hornets' chemistry over the Magic's chemistry. The Magic don't have any chemistry. They have a ton of talent, but they have no chemistry.
I agree.
So I will take them to leap the Magic. Yeah.
For sure. Like, we have Jamal Mosley and Paulo calling each other out to the press. Like, it is not pretty right now down in Orlando. All right, the next team then, 6th seed. So, to give some reference, Hornets are at 32 wins. The 6th seed is the 76ers, who are at 34. So, they're about, 3 games back of the 76ers. Do they hop the 76ers to get into the playoffs and skip the play-in?
Yep. I think so. And look, the caveat to me saying yep is when the Sixers had that brief period, it was about a month or so, maybe 45 games where they were whole. They showed you they could be really good. Embiid showed you he can still be an all-NBA performer, and then he did what he normally does. He got injured. He got hurt. He couldn't go. Paul George has his issues with the suspension. Barlow's been in and out of the lineup. I don't think the Sixers I just don't think they're ever going to be whole. And I think that the momentum that the Hornets are building, more importantly, right now, when they come into a game now, Brett, they expect to win. Like, these dudes are playing with an insane confidence. And look, LaMelo is balling, but the key guy to everything they're doing is Con Knipple. It's Con Knipple, a rookie, is the tone setter for the Hornets.
No, absolutely. And then this is the last team I'm going to name because I go any higher, we're just getting into unrealistic territory. But they're at 32 wins. They are 4.5 games behind the 5th seed Toronto Raptors, who are at 35. Mo, does this hot streak continue enough for them to get to the 5 seed and hop the Toronto Raptors?
I don't know if they out and out can hop or catch the Raptors, but I like them to be at least 6th. But I will say this. The way the Raptors have been playing lately, they might help them hop them. Like the Raptors are descending. And I don't really trust the Raptors because you don't know. They're like Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what team you're going to get from night to night. The only thing that's consistent about the Toronto Raptors is their inconsistency. So I'm going to say they don't leap the Raptors, but that doesn't mean the Raptors won't self-destruct and fall back.
That would lead to some fun first round matchups, by the way. If they got to the 5th seed, for example, the standing state as they are, which there could be still some movement in the top 4, but 5th seed matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 6th seed would draw them the New York Knicks. Which I think that both of those series would be absolutely terrific.
They really would. And here's the thing. It's really easy for somebody to look at that matchup and go, the Knicks in 5 or the Knicks in 6. I'm telling you, if you don't want to be the ones that play those young dudes in the postseason because they're coming in there but with house money. The Knicks have nothing but pressure on their shoulders. Like, I would not say it's a lock that the Knicks win that series. I would not say it's a lock. Look, if you go starters for starters, talent-wise and athleticism-wise, they match up well with the Knicks. And on the flip side, in terms of what they do offensively, they're a tough cover because suddenly the ball doesn't stick anymore. They move the ball and they move bodies and they keep your defense on their heels. So I would love to see them either match up with the Knicks or the Cavaliers in the first round.
I think that the Knicks would almost. It's funny how this happens, right? Because he's their highest paid guy. This shouldn't be the case. I believe he's still their highest paid guy, but I feel like the X factor in a series like that is just Karl Anthony Towns. If he's shooting well and keeping Diabate and Kalkbrenner away from the basket, all of a sudden you open a lot of stuff up, for Jalen Brunson. But if he just, if he falls off a cliff and he can't shoot, which we've seen him go through random streaks in this Mike Brown system where he does that, then it's anyone's ball game. Because if you allow Diabate and like Kalkbrenner to, chill near the basket, if you try to put Josh Hart in the lineup too and he can't shoot, like you are going to create a ton of problems for yourself in the middle.
That's kind of the problem with the Knicks, though. Mike Brown's system is a motion system where it encourages everyone to take the open shots. But that system actually alienates Karl Anthony Towns more times than not. Like there's something wrong. This is just a common sense thing. Josh Hart, more times than not, takes more shots than Karl Anthony Towns per game. That just on that alone, something's wrong. One, because Josh Hart's not a good shooter. But more importantly, Josh Hart is a role player. The role player should not be taking more shots than your second best offensive player. That doesn't make sense.
I completely agree with that. And when it comes to obviously a playoff series, all it takes is 1 or 2 bad shooting nights from especially Cat. And and that series could very easily flip. Say, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm excited about the Hornets. This was a team that before the year, I always give a hot take, and last year, one of my hot takes was the Hornets make the playoffs. And it turns out if I did that this year, it would have been looking pretty decent, actually.
So you were just a year off, partner.
I was just just a year early. It's aging better than my Paulo Banchero one. So
look, chat, we keep it 100. We're both out on that Paulo Banchero plank. We both went out on that plank. And look, hell of a talented player. There's no reason to believe that he won't get it together and one day be all NBA and win a couple of MVPs. But right now today, incredibly inconsistent.
No, absolutely. And we hey, say another big debut we got tonight. Trae Young's actually playing for the Wizards tonight. So looks like we're gonna get some, see how Trae Young kind of gels with the young talent for a little bit before the start of next year, which I think it's great. Like new player, let him integrate into this new system for the last quarter of the year, and then you'll have a full off season to completely integrate him.
I think Trae Young is going to be great for the Wizards for their bigs. I think he's going to get Alex Sarr a lot of easy opportunities to finish at the basket or at the rim. And not to mention his ability to create for others as well in the pick and roll. Look, Trae Young's a pick and roll master, and the Wizards don't lack for young athletic players. So this can be kind of fun down the stretch.
Did you see the Mike Brown comments about SGA?
I did. Don't be a crybaby, Mike. Don't be that guy. My problem is I get it, but in that game, I watched that game. That's like the one game maybe you shouldn't make that comment because SGA he shot 7 free throws, not 11, not 15, he shot 7. And I don't know what happened to fans because we build guys up and then we tear them down. SGA doesn't lead the NBA in free throws per game. He's third. Is it Jaylen Brown is ahead of him, and I forgot who else. I want to say Luka, but maybe it's not Luka. But I don't understand why we attack him, but we don't attack guys who shoot more free throws per game than he does. How does Luka, and I'm a Laker fan, how does Luka come away unscathed from criticism when he whines for calls at the open and jump? Like, I don't understand that. But they pick and choose. Let's kill SGA because he's a foul baiter. Like, I don't understand that. I'm sorry that this current era, this is the NBA you asked for. You wanted to encourage more offense. Well, these really, really gifted offensive players that can take people off the bounce, they're more clever. And they find ways to initiate contact, to draw you in and get you off balance, and they're at the free throw line. it's not like SGA's cheating or doing anything illegal. He's not doing anything that Luka hadn't been doing for years, that James Harden before him hadn't been doing for years, that DeMar DeRozan has done for 15 years or more. Like, it's not new. It's not. I don't understand why he's become the poster child for foul baiting.
Right, like people talk about it like Snoot's like, brother, we were watching Rip Hamilton foul bait everybody to oblivion in 2004. Man still has the record for most points in a game without making a single shot. So,
right. I mean, think about what James Harden did when he was in his peak, Brett. You know how many games James Harden would have a game where he made like 4 shots, but he had 30 points because he got to the line 18 times? Like that's insane. How do you get 30 points on a night where you make 4 shots? And nobody was whining about that then. Why are we whining about it now?
It got so brutal to a point we had guys guarding James Harden with their hands behind their back.
I remember that.
Reggie Miller did too until they took away his leg kicking out. Yeah.
This is true. Reggie was doing some kind of weird kung fu. He'd come off them screens and them legs would come flying out.
This is my favorite part, by the way. Like, SGA is third in the NFL, or tied for third in the NBA in free throws.
Right.
With Denny Advia. Like, it's so funny. Like, to me, that just shows the difference between what, like, people complain about for foul calls and not. Because people complain about SGA, right? And I get it. They're the champs. They're in the spotlight right now. I don't hear anybody complain about Denny Advia. And I promise you, if you watch a Portland Trailblazer game, those are not ethical fouls he's drawing. He's not fighting through contact. A gust of wind, he's falling down and throwing himself to the ground. So Denny does fight through some contact, but he has a lot of very, like, same exact foul baiting that a lot of people complain about. But hey, you know what? Denny's having a great year, so shout out to Denny. I don't want to discourage him, but
He is having a great year. I think if he sustains it throughout the season, he's definitely going to make one of the All NBA teams.
no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I do like your point too. By the way, Kyle, mind you, he has Jalen Brunson on his team.
I've had this argument before, Kyle, with New York Knicks fans because Cat is always the low hanging fruit. But I'm like, I get it. Brunson is great at clutch time and all that kind of stuff, but he's such a volume scorer and such a volume shooter that sometimes Brunson, that part about being a point guard where you look for other people, it kind of gets away from it. Even though last night I think he actually had like 14 or 15 assists, but your second option, who by far arguably might be the best shooter on your team, he got to get more than 8 to 10 shots a game.
Scotty Barnes, All NBA third team. You know what?
Maybe I
like it.
I wouldn't rule it out. Look, he'll get, if he gets there, it'll be on the strength of what he does, obviously on both ends of the floor. Because I think Barnes is like 19, 8, 6 assists, and obviously he's elite. He's an elite defender. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think it's a great call out, especially. I think he's already a deserving All NBA like third team candidate, but especially like once we start removing the guys that are disqualified from the awards, it gets insanely tough to keep him out of that third team, right? Like now we're gonna have to move guys up to the first team, and we're gonna have like 3 or 4 different spots on the third team. Like I said, it's gonna be interesting too in the offseason when all these guys start making All NBA teams, and the owners are all of a sudden looking at like, well, this guy wants a supermax now. This is going to be fun.
I mean, but that's on the owners, right? They negotiated it that way. The way they negotiated it was to ensure that you could keep your own free agents, right? Or make it harder for them to want to leave. And look, you're right. A guy like Danny Avdija, maybe it's in his contract, if he makes an All NBA team, he gets one of those kickers like others have gotten, where he gets like an extra $250,000 or something to that effect. So, yeah, making any All NBA team absolutely matters to these players, and it impacts them financially.
And I almost think that a season like this will maybe cause the owners to reconsider these aprons too, right? Because look, it's all fun and games until like you have to you lose one of your own players because you negotiated the 65 game rule. Now all of a sudden you have an All NBA player to somebody like you're even surprised. You're a little surprised they got it, but now it might end up causing some friction and bad blood in negotiations. So I definitely think maybe too with some of these All NBA like third teamers that are going to be on there, like if the negotiations get too problematic for some of these owners, like maybe in the next round of CBAs in 2030, they'll be like, yeah, you know what, 65 game rule? Yeah, we don't need that anymore. We're good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that it's not going away. Not yet. Give it a little bit more time. I think it will go away because, like you said, you're going to end up having guys make All NBA teams who are really good players, but in a normal year where greater players weren't penalized for not playing enough games, they would never make an All-NBA team. But again, if they make it, you know how that is. The kicker is they're going to want more money, or there's a kicker in their contract. I think that does create for some tough negotiations. And for a smaller franchise, a small market franchise, if you don't have it like that financially, you might have to make a tougher call and move somebody that you wouldn't normally move.
Absolutely. So you don't pay supermax at times to your superstars. Like, for example, this will probably work out well for the Spurs because with the way Wemby's like body's almost constructed, you don't really see guys his size hitting that 65 game mark a lot of the times.
Right.
But when you're, for example, your second or third option all of a sudden is hitting All NBA because guys like Wemby and let's say Giannis doesn't play 65 games going forward, and all of a sudden the owners are staring down the barrel of, oh, well, it could have been 25% of the cap, but now I got to pay him 30 because, he hit Supermax and we have to find middle ground. It's one of those things where like it saves money in one area, but it could really backfire on some of these like fringe all NBA guys when it comes to their contract negotiations.
That's the whole point of it. And in a lot of ways, it sets up the perfect storm. We can have a conversation and say that Jaylen Brown should get MVP consideration. I 100% co-sign on that. We can say that Cade Cunningham should get some strong. Absolutely, I agree on that. But if Joker and SGA, let's keep it a buck, if they play enough games, they're going to be 1 and 2. It's just a matter of who's going to be 1, who's going to be 2. And that's not no slight against Cade or Jaylen Brown. On the flip side, if they don't play enough games, then somebody kind of gets elevated up and they're an MVP. I think it creates a perfect storm in a lot of ways. And you got to be careful of that.
I'll use an example. What if Jalen Duren gets named to the All-NBA third team? Now, all of a sudden, you're the Pistons, and you're looking at a situation where it's like, well, Duren wants a supermax. We don't want to give him a supermax. And the difference between the supermax and max is one is, I believe it's the max is 25% of the cap. Supermax is 35% of the cap. So now you're looking at a situation like, meet in the middle. We'll give you 30% of the cap. You're going to have to make a tough call because are you going to be able to build a competitive roster, for example, with, Duren and Cade taking up 65% of your salary cap? Like, it's just going to create problems in other areas.
Look, the only team that's ever been able to pull that off, obviously, and had the success that they've had has been the Celtics, Kyle's club. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe both Tatum and Brown have $300 million contracts, right? So that's very unique, very unique. But then everybody doesn't have Brad Stevens running the show. Brad Stevens is that dude. If you got a Brad Stevens at the helm, Brad Stevens is the most forward-thinking GM in the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see if that, like, how this all plays out. And I'm excited to look closer to the year, probably when the year ends. I'll have some fun. I'll throw out my All-NBA and, award predictions, and it'll be a great time.
It'll be fun. You know what? Obviously, our guy Paolo's probably not going to make it. Not this year. Not this year. I'm not saying he's never going to make it, just not this year.
Stevens learned a lot from Danny Ainge. I don't. Yeah, he definitely learned a lot from Danny Ainge. And at this point, Shay, if he keeps on the run he's as an executive, he'll probably pass Danny Ainge.
Well, let's look at it from this standpoint. Danny Ainge has been he made the move to go to Utah. He's done a lot of really good things in terms of making willing and dealing, but the ultimate goal is to put together a championship roster. Danny Ainge's been there for a minute. They've done a lot of things. They haven't put together a championship roster. Now, if Ace Bailey becomes a player we think he could become, the move to get Jaren Jackson Jr., you already have Walker Kessler, and you have Marketing. That front line, the length that it has, the versatility that it has, that could be one of the better front lines in all the NBA, bar none, not even close.
And also, Keontae George is really big for a guard. Like, he's a really big guard. So, like, that will be some insane size, especially if you're planning on running Keontae George at, point or even shooting guard.
It's crazy to say this, but I literally think outside of what they already have on their roster, Brett, I think the Jazz are a player away from being like where the Hornets have ascended to, where OKC is already at, where the Spurs are climbing to be, like one of those young teams that can go 1 through 8 with nothing but talent.
No, absolutely. And Mo, I thought we'd end off the episode with a little bit of fun. T3 and D, Kyle, everybody in the chat too. I think you'll have fun with this too. The NBA draft. Guys, you are the GM of the NBA draft for your team. Obviously, you got to rank some prospects. You got to make a top 10 big board. It's going to be tough. Now, the stipulation for this is every prospect I'm about to show you, you only get to take into consideration their collegiate or overseas career. They haven't done anything in the NBA yet. So, let's have some fun and do number 1 draft pick big board. So, I think, I feel like between production and draft hype, I feel like number 1 and the last overall pick are really easy. Like, is there, like, for example, for number 10, like, on the bottom of my big board, at least, Mo, it's got to be Zachary Ricochet. Like, even with all the hype, even with all his hype, his stats, watching him, it's just like, so he's like Harrison Barnes? Like, if he reaches his full potential?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of funny to say, Harrison Barnes. But yeah, I'm with you on what you're trying to say, right? Yeah, that's how I feel about Ricochet. And the thing is, like, Wemby is a no-brainer. You knew. I think Anthony Edwards, you knew. I think Zion, even though I wasn't crazy about him, you knew. I watched Ayton. I wasn't in awe of him. I thought Ayton was good, but I didn't think there was anything special about him. The guy is weird to say this, that ultimately disappointed me. Maybe not he definitely didn't disappoint me the most, because I thought Ben Simmons, before he had his nervous breakdown, name me a 6'10" point guard. Like, I love Jason Kidd, but I don't think Jason Kidd has a season in his career where he averaged 16, 8, and 8 across the board. 16, 8, and 8. And Simmons was an all-NBA defender. Like, Simmons, his first few years was not a disappointment. Everything came apart, obviously, a few years back versus the Hawks, but I think Simmons was everything they expected him to be. A lot of people say Fultz had a drop. I'm probably alone in this. He wouldn't have had a drop if I were a GM, because I wouldn't have drafted him. I saw him. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it at all. I saw a guy who was the leading scorer on a very bad team, but he didn't seem like he was a razor or he made anybody around him better. He just seemed like a guy.
No, I absolutely. He's not somebody I was 100% sold on either, even though a lot of people were in that draft. Honestly, and like I said, I'm with you in the sense of, since we're just doing that, yeah.
No, he did. He did lead the nation in scoring. That's facts.
I'd say when it comes to, I think there's only one guy that really I'd have below Markelle Fultz. Like, to me, he's my number 8 prospect in this, exercise. And that's really only behind DeAndre Ayton. Like, I like Markelle Fultz, the prospect, more than DeAndre Ayton, the prospect. But they were on pretty similar, like, tiers. And if you want to, if you flip them, I wouldn't say much of anything about it, because I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I the way you scored it, like, I would have. I think Simmons, like I said, I knew what he was, and this is obviously before he got drafted by the Sixers. I didn't know he was going to go to the Sixers, but even though I didn't necessarily like his attitude or whatever, I'm just talking about what he did on the floor. I was impressed with Ben Simmons. You wish that he would have added more to his game, but he didn't, and then eventually it hurt him.
No, absolutely, and if anybody's just reading this, I've just put in the right in the direction that they were, right in the direction and year that they were drafted. So,
right,
I think the fun, because Ben Simmons, the prospect, I think he's a top 5 prospect in this thing.
Oh, I agree.
Like, let me put it this way. I think number 2 in terms of hype and collegiate production, I think that is either Wemby or not Wemby, because I think Wemby's 1, and then you go Zion or Cooper Flag as a collegiate, as a collegiate athlete. So, and then after that, at 4, yeah, I think you got Ben Simmons. Like, I genuinely think he's the only guys that are above him in terms of pre-draft hype. And as a prospect are Wemby, Flag, Williamson.
Yeah. Look, I would have still taken Simmons 1, no question, because my concern, and I'm sure if you're in your battle room, your war room with everybody in your front office, your assistants and all that, the coaches, the concern would have been the attitude. It would have been his mentality. Ben Simmons was insanely arrogant, and he had an off-putting attitude. But you wondered, right? Like, is this an act? Is he super mentally tough? Is he that dude? And he came into the league, jumped right in, and he fit in like he was a 10-year veteran. Like, and it did help that he went to a team that had already drafted some guys that were talented scorers, because Ben Simmons is not a scorer. And he's not going to, not only, it's not that he's not a good shooter. Ben Simmons don't even shoot. He didn't shoot and refused to shoot. And that wasn't a problem for him for 4 years, all the way up until the Atlanta series, where it became a thing, because to Atlanta's credit, if you watch that series, they literally started playing him for the pass. And his teammates were telling him, yo, shoot the ball, do something. It was literally the beginning of it's a terrible way to end a career. It's weird to say this, because correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Ben Simmons, is he 29 or 30? Is he even 30? Is he 30?
No.
He's not even
30.
He's not even 30, and he's done. And you don't make 3 All-Star teams. You don't make an All-NBA. You're not an All-NBA defender by accident. And he did that 3 times. And this guy's done before the age of 30.
Well, we can do an episode on this, Mo, and name it The Legacy of Hasheem Thabeet.
Oh my God, yes. Yes. Yeah.
Like Dan at Georgia better than Simmons at LSU. Fair. Like I said, that I would love you guys too in the comments to take all 10 of these guys and rank them how you like them as prospects.
Right,
So
right.
Only rule, we're not taking their NBA career into consideration. Just what they did before they got to the show.
Facts.
Banchero's attitude isn't much better than Simmons.
I don't disagree with that. I'm on board with that.
Yeah, Joel Embiid did turn the ball over a lot in that Atlanta series.
What 100%. But guess what? Joel Embiid turned the ball over a lot in the series where they played the Boston a couple of years ago, and Harden won like 2 games. But all everybody talked about was how Harden disappointed him and how Harden came up short. Joel Embiid is their best player. He was the MVP of the league, and he came up short in 6 games.
It's all good, T3 and D. We all have this. Like, look, when the Heat drafted Josh Jackson, I thought he was going to be like the next Andre Iguodala, and I was really wrong about that. I made a mistake. So we all got this. I also thought the Bucks made a mistake drafting a forward in the 2013 draft that turned out to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. I was really wrong about that. So,
hey,
like I said, we appreciate honesty here. I'll be honest with my misses too.
I ain't gonna front. I have no problem taking a hit. I thought Josh Jackson was gonna be a beast.
Oh, I thought he, like, I was watching, like, I was looking at him like versatile defender. He showed potential to be able to shoot. Like, this guy could be like the next Andre Iguodala.
Yeah.
And then it just turned out that just never materialized.
Yeah. I really thought he was going to be on that level, and it never happened.
I was wrong on Con Knuppel too. I feel like everybody, it feels like most people are wrong on Con Knuppel. It's so weird. Like,
I thought Con was going to be good, Brett. I thought Con was going to be good, but I am not going to lie to you. I did not think he would be what he is already in year 1.
They heard way too much of the Celtics. Yeah, Josh Jackson or Tatum was a legitimate conversation going into that draft.
That's kind of crazy.
Right? So, Mo, currently, and like I said, if anybody disagrees, we got the first I got my first 4 names and bottom 3 names, which means got to sort out a couple more names on this list. So Banchero, Cade, and as prospects, say personally, I would probably go. I'd probably go Cade. Actually, say I'd probably go Cade, and then this is where it gets tough. I'd probably go. You know what? I'm not even gonna front. I was so high on Banchero. I probably have to be honest, true to my word, and go Banchero, Cade, and Am. Probably in that order.
I'm not gonna front. I would have drafted Banchero, Cade in that order. I thought Ant was this combine baby that was, freakish athlete. All they talked about was how explosive and how big he was, how physically dominant he could be. And the concern was because he wasn't a good shooter at the time. He had showed signs, but he wasn't a good. I mean, look what he's turned into now. Anthony Edwards takes like 10 or 11 threes a game, and he shoots damn near 40%. Like, I had no idea he was going to be that good a shooter.
Kyle says Banchero and Cade for him.
Yeah. I'm with that. I would have took Cade, but I'll admit it.
No, absolutely. So the final list that I got, that I'll probably end up, posting on the page, see how everybody likes it. I'll probably get trolled for it. That's okay. Number 1 pick in this draft, on the big board, Wemby, Zion, Cooper Flagg, Ben Simmons, Paulo Banchero, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Fultz, Ayton, and Ricochet. I feel like obviously it's all subject to interpretation, but at least personally, that's my big board for this number 1 pick of the draft.
I think ours are similar. I would just have Cade and Ant in different positions. I would definitely have Ricochet dead last for what it's worth. Even though I wasn't crazy about Fultz, but like you said, Ricochet was going to be, if you told me like his ceiling was Harrison Barnes, you're going to draft. Harrison Barnes is a good player, but knowing what I'm not drafting Harrison Barnes in the top 10.
No, absolutely, Mo. Actually, I really enjoyed that. So if anybody doesn't know, I have a really fun plan for this, by the way. We're gonna do this again next week and the week after that. And then on the last week of the month, I'm just going to make a big board with all the prospects that we talked about.
I love it. We're going to call that the super draft.
Absolutely. And then, so next week, I'll even give you the 10 prospects that will be on the board for you next week. Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose, Greg Oden, Andrea Bargnani.
That's some rough stuff right there. So I'm just curious. I know this is for next week, but what I think we can all agree on one thing, chat. Unless there's somebody who's a relative, Anthony Bennett's last, right? He's dead last. You got to be dead last.
Taking Anthony Bennett in the 50th round.
Kyle is wild.
No, absolutely, Mo. And I'm looking forward to it. I'll sort it out for next week. But man, that battle for number 1 on the big board is going to be tough.
That's a good one. Yes, sir.
Especially you have that 08 to 2012 run where it's Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin, John Wall, Kyrie, and Anthony Davis. How do you sort through that? Off the dome, it feels like maybe Anthony Davis is the right answer, but
I think you're right there. I think that because we're talking about what they did in college and what we were projecting them to be at the time that they were in college. If we're doing it that way and we stay that way, we stay true, it's gonna be hard to not have Anthony Davis at the top of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But we can also talk about I always love different ideas for different topics that you guys want us to talk about. So it can definitely also touch on the curse of the number 2 pick next week, because it's always interesting. Yeah, Kyrie would definitely be lower because of the injury, but it just feels like a great pick, right?
Right.
Like when I look deeper into it, he's going to be last, but knowing what we know now, it's a great pick. But judging by prospects here, right? Kyrie is probably just going to be like right next to Anthony Bennett, not because of skill, more so because he only played 11 games.
That might be the only time you ever have Kyrie Irving right next to Anthony Bennett, ever.
Right? Even it's so funny with Kyrie. Like, he showed so much skill in the limited time he played. Like, he only didn't play much, but man, he definitely showed that he was the number 1 pick in those 11 games. Yeah, no. 11 games of Anthony Bennett's definitely 11 games of Kyrie is still better than whatever Anthony Bennett did.
My God.
Say no, absolutely. And like I said, I know we're looking far ahead, but then we get the third week we do this. By the way, 2 weeks from now, this Murders Row is going to be so much fun. Because it's Bogut, Howard, LeBron James, Yao Ming, Kwame Brown, Kmart, Elton Brand, Michael Olowokandi, Duncan, and Allen Iverson. So you gotta pick between Howard, LeBron, Duncan, AI. Wow. Like, that is also just a Murders Row.
And that's based off of that's a lot. Just the prospects of dealing with Duncan and LeBron. That's crazy.
Are you trying to tell me that Michael Olowokandi isn't going to sneak up on your draft board? Shout out to Joe Smith.
Smith.
The guy who screwed the Timberwolves.
Did he? Him and Kevin McHale screwed the Timberwolves. Yeah.
Truly incredible. Go all in to get KG help, I'm all for, but to go under the table for Joe Smith is just laughable. But no. Olowokandi, Pacific University legend. Now that's fair. But hey, that's all I had for you guys today. Like I said, next week we'll do the next 10 picks, and it'll be a good time. And like I said, if there's any topics you want us to add, we do have a Facebook page for the N1 podcast. I also have a Discord that's been popping lately. So, like I said, if you want to reach out to me, I can always give you the link for the Discord if you want to do that. But anything you want to add before say, hey, thank you, T3&D. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, T3&D.
Anything you want to add before you get out of here, Mo?
Oh, no, just the chat. The chat was live. You guys are always so insightful. Y'all all know hoops. Kyle, always appreciate you, bro. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next week.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week, and have yourself a good night.